Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Mark from Powersonic and Apprentice 1-to-1. Today I'm back on site with the school EV charge points you've seen us doing on the last few videos on the channel. So this is the 4 pod points. We've got them now. We're going to put them on the wall. I'll explain how they work and take you through the installation process. I'm in my own van today. I'm not guys, and I've got my loadout ready here. So we've got the Packout system in the back. This is really handy because I'm right next to where the charge points are going to be installed. I've got all my gear in the drawers ready to go. Test bag over in the corner back there, so we can get on with things, and there's no dragging stuff up and down someone's stairs, messing about, everything. It makes life so much easier when you are working in this way. For those of you who do a lot of lugging your gear around, when you get a job like this, it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to get set up. We're going to get on putting these charge points in. We'll speak about the unique features of the Pod Point Solo 3 and run you through our approach to installing them. And there are some unique features to it, and there are some controversial talking points around RCDs, but that is not unique to Pod Point. We'll pick up with that in just a bit. So this is one of the pod points on the wall. You can see internally we've got our white cable, and we've just taped them up at the minute to identify them. We're going to oversleeve. This is the 4G router slash SIM card. I'll keep my hand over that there. I'll show you inside one of the other ones without these in a minute. Basically we've got 4 on this site, 2 with the routers in and 2 without. You can see we come around, wire into the top up there, and then just your usual PCB board in the back, little front cover. If I show you one without the router in, we can have a better look at what's inside. So again, we've rotated the phases down here with them bin 4. Just move your L1, L2, 3 and L3 around one individual marking each time, if that makes sense. So you're essentially not putting all of the load, if everyone's got single phase chargers, onto the L1 and leaving the others not used. Again, you can see the charge point coming out to here. We've got it running through the clamp on there, and then all of the clever electronics that works its magic. This I assume is for the Wi-Fi, so they all do have Wi-Fi built in, but only 2 of them have the routers, so they can communicate externally. You can configure them for load limiting all through the app itself. There's no dip switches or dials or anything to adjust. With these, they do have pen fault protection in, they do have a type 3 surge protection device in, and they do have the 6 milliamp DC leakage protection built in. But I have just read that they do still recommend a type A RCD up front to comply with BS 7671. Same old thing with all of the EV manufacturers, and the product standard for RCDs, none of their internal mechanisms reach that product standard, is my understanding, because there's no test button, and they don't open all of the poles at the same time or something along those lines. So you still need that up front, which has caused a bit of a headache, but we can sort it out. And yeah, I'll show you these in a better view in a minute. One thing I do really like is this cable tie that screws in here just to hold the front cover. Often with some of the other charge points we fit, these are just left dangling and the strains all on the cables while you're fitting them. Nice bit of thought there from Pod Point. That is a good move. We've got our own fixings. They don't come with the fixings, which was a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. We have these on the van anyway, so you can see there we've got the membrane washer to give a weather seal behind the fixing. No panhead screws in there, and there's just the 3 holes. So you have this one down at the bottom, and then there's one either side up here, and they fix back to the wall. Really simple to wire. The ones at the other schools I'm going to show you, we've done bottom entry on these. These have come rear entry. You'll see we've got the stuffing gland weather sealed, so there's no moisture ingress coming through this. Similar way with a Zappy, for example, you just reverse it around, and that's been a consistent method of achieving water tightness. This one still needs tightening up, actually, I've just noticed, but you get a nice grip on the cable. You're not going to get any moisture tracking into the charger, and it should remain nice and dry in there. We've been back to loads of Zappies where we've used that method, and they're dry as the day they were first fitted. So hopefully these are the same. You can see the guys are just down there putting the fronts on. We're going to have a good tidy up, and then I'll show you through these on the wall. Okay, so you'll see we've covered over here the QR code and all of the Wi-Fi details and the router. This is so you can set these up as simply as possible. Obviously I don't want to share those because people could start trying to get into this thing if they figured out where it was. Yeah, this will clip off the main PCB here, so you can get it out of the way while you fit it to the wall. Again, stuffing gland in the back, nice water seal. All pretty straightforward here. Just going to pop the fronts on, and we can't actually power these up for the minute because we've got a shutdown arranged for later in the month over the bank holiday when they are taking off the substations. There's 3 of them on site, I'm told. One over there, and one somewhere else on the site, so they're all getting shut down. So we're tying in our MCCB works with that. and I'll show you that later on in the summer when we come around to energise these. We'll get the fronts on, I'll show you what they look like step back, and catch up with you in a sec. Okay, so there you can see all 4 of them on the wall, and they're not spaced how we would like, and there is a reason for that. There is steels running up this, so between those 2 windows there's a great big steel there. We did want to set it in the centre, but obviously we're drilling through. Something's in the way, there isn't a great deal you can do about that. We're not going to start plasma cutting through the RSJs holding this place up. Same on that side. Sorry, here, there's another steel there, so we've just had to come towards the window to get past it. Otherwise we were round into that next bay over there, and it makes it awkward inside. So that's why we've done that one on there. These, again, how we're trunking on the inside, kind of that's the first place we could get to on that one. It's fine, all these bay markings are getting redone, so they can be set out in a way that's going to make it easy for the users to pull up, plug the vehicles in, and whilst they're not symmetrical, it's working with the existing building as it is, you know, avoiding using containment outside. That was the other option, to position these exactly where we want them. We could come low or high level with containment. Obviously that affects the exterior aesthetics of the building, and this seemed like the best solution that we've gone for. Customers happy with it, they wanted that as well, so we're all good there. Show you up what these look like on the front, and we'll have a little look at the manual as well, so you can see they're all named. This is Stan 1. Tells you how to work it on the front, to use the app. Obviously all of these need commissioning, they're not active yet, and these are up to 22 kilowatts. All the same. We did have an issue with this one where the brick exploded, and we've used the cement mix to try and repair that here. That's just the first fill gone in. We'll see how that dries up, and we can brush in some of the brick colouring on the top once that's hardened up and try and make it so it is invisible as possible. But these things happen. If you get caught like that, you can get the mortar mix in tubes, and you can try and style it back in to something like, obviously it's not going to be perfect, but if you can make it look reasonable, when these things happen, it goes a long way with clients rather than just chucking brown silicon in there or some mortar. So we've made an attempt to get it back something right, and if this doesn't end up looking as it should, we'll have the brick replaced. We don't want to leave a mess for the customer, but I think that'll come up quite nice in the end. Like I say, it's just the first fill gone in. This is still a bit wet, I'm just playing around with it, trying to get it looking right. Yeah, just one to keep in your mind. We can't commission these just yet, as I said, because we are waiting on the site shutdown. So once we get to that stage, we can come back and fit the MCCB in the main panel board. For those of you who watched the earlier videos, you will have seen that already coming together. So we've got all the containment and the board just in the plant room behind me here. When we get to that stage, we'll show you the full shutdown process, how we manage that. We are lucky on this one because, as I say, the substations on site are all getting pulled down. There's going to be an authorised person on site managing and looking after all of that. So all we really need to do is ensure we fit a lock on the local distribution circuit to where we're working in supplement to theirs. Then we know we're totally safe. Obviously inform them of our work as well, and we should be long finished before they are. And that's going to be on Matthew, because I won't be here, I will be away on holiday. So I'm going to get him to record the footage on that. We'll see how it comes onto the channel, because I really want to show an MCCB getting fitted and managing that process safely. We don't have to worry about building, as I mentioned in the last video. We were going to be isolating all the distribution boards and making sure we manage all of that, but because there's already a different company in doing all of those things, you know, they're superseding us on that front because they've got the whole site isolated. So yeah, it's working with other contractors. I guess it might be something that people who work in school environments have to deal with, so I thought it might be interesting. I'm going to get the manuals out back at the office, and we'll have a little look through those and see what Pod Point are saying in terms of setting these up, commissioning them, and also some of the things we need to keep in mind when we're installing our overcurrent protective devices and supply circuits down to them. So I'll catch up with you in just a sec. Hi, so I just wanted to interrupt this video to talk a little bit about Apprentice 1-to-1. Those of you who follow me on social media will have seen over on Twitter, I had a bit of a discussion the other week about the Academy. It's something I've been working on in the background for 10 to 12 months. I'm really quite proud of what we've actually managed to do, and I'm excited to share it in full once it's ready. I'm away later this month, and I'm not going to be back until early September. There's still bits to get buttoned up, and as soon as we're there, I will share in great detail exactly what we're doing. But unfortunately, there was some, I'm going to call it nasty discussion over on Twitter. It actually annoyed me that, having made the efforts that we have over the last 2 years, supporting training, apprentices, and employers, that there'd be some sort of will to drag us down, if you like, and say that what we're doing is to make profit or encourage teachers to work for free or hurt and damage training within the UK, when that is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. Those of you who listen to the podcast will have heard me say I've been conflicted about this for a while, because I don't want to step on training's toes. I don't want to damage FE by taking funding away from them and into something I'm setting up. So we are working on something very different. It's something that's going to be free for learners, free for employers, free for existing trainers, and it's hopefully going to tackle the issues. Cooper! Sorry, just dragging Cooper back. Hopefully going to tackle the issues that are very common on an apprenticeship when somebody loses their employment. So to help them keep their places on a course, have some kind of temporary employment, and support them back into their original training path as quickly as possible. Now, it's not going to be straightforward. There are hurdles to overcome. We need to get properly set up and registered to deliver apprenticeships. We already have the employer pool there to help do this anyway, so that's less of a factor. But the other thing I'm very mindful of is, once this goes live, there could be an overwhelming demand for what we're trying to do. So it is going to very much be on a first come first served basis, and yeah, we'll just see how that pans out. I'm going to share full details on all of that. But having had the accusations that, you know, we're devaluing training and what being a qualified electrician would mean by offering apprenticeships for free, well, for a starting point, that's pretty bonkers, because most apprentices get their training for free anyway, although it is funded by the taxpayer. And yeah, just to make clear, we're not drawing any taxpayer funds. We're not going to be setting out anybody at the beginning on an official apprenticeship. We're going to be filling the gaps when problems appear and stuff breaks down, so people don't lose their place on courses, and we get them back into employment as swiftly as possible, and in the meantime the training's not held up. And for those who are maybe towards the end and unfortunately lose their employment, it's really, really common. We're going to step in and help them get finished off and qualified as proper electricians with the right experience and training. Same for the retrainees. We're going to put a mechanism in place so they have access to on-site experience to complete their portfolios. We've got a network of employers around the country who are stepping up to offer those kind of opportunities for people, and it's not ideal. It shouldn't be like that, but while the demand is there and this problem's been created by the training space, I'm going to try and do something to help solve it and speak about the mis-selling of courses that's been done en masse for quite a long time, and see if we can get that to change for the better, you know, and put apprentices and retrainees at the centre of this discussion. That's ultimately all it is. We do have a network of other training providers who are involved with us as well, and I would reach out for more of you to get in touch and get involved, because we're going to need that help and support. But we do have, I think it's 18 at the minute, spread across the country, and they're going to step in with us to make this a thing. It's actually quite exciting. And to those of you who are chucking mud, casting aspersions, sharing opinions based on your own mindsets, you know, there's been the questions of, why would anyone want to offer this for free? Why are you using your own money? Well, one, I've found a way of generating money through social media and sponsors, so I can use some of those funds to impact training in a positive way. I don't need it in my pocket. And two, because I want to. Deal with it. Let's move on with the video.
Okay, so this is the Solo 3 manual, and as I said, we'll have a quick run through it. It leans on the dimensions and the height that this needs to be mounted, and again that kind of follows on from what we see in our guidance notes from the IET and the regs. It does talk about the RCD requirements. Now, lots of the EV charge points out on the market now will say that they do have 30 milliamp RCD protection built in with the DC leakage protection. However, I don't think any of them comply with the intent of what the wiring regs dictate, in terms of there being a test button and all of the poles being opened mechanically via the use of a lever that you would see on a traditional RCD. So lots of them will say in their instructions that you should include one up front of the device itself, so it can incorporate it. Now, if you've watched us install the T22s from PodPoint, they have physical RCBOs in the posts themselves, so it gives that RCD protection through the requirements of the regs. Unfortunately, these solos do not have that feature built into them, so they are saying here that you need to fit a type A RCD, but they are saying it does have the DC protection built into the product itself. So it's kind of a halfway house, and that is not unique to PodPoint. In fairness to them, it even gives an explanation of the markings that you find on the front of your RCDs, and it explains here about that with the solo chargers manufactured after 2018 include the 6 mA DC vehicle fault protection, and only a type A RCD and RCBO is required at the source. So obviously we're going to have to factor that in now to our installations, and luckily we have realised this before we got too far on with things, and I can show you how we pull that back and get that installed on our school programme over the summer period. And it's not that costly, to be honest, so it's no grand dramas. It's just a lack of foresight, really. Because we've not installed these PodPoint products before, we're not familiar with them, and also we don't have foresight of the instruction manual before installing them either. So it's one of those, we're learning as we go. It's just one of those things that will crop up from time to time. You must ensure you follow the manufacturer's instructions, and ultimately that is what we are doing. It does say here how you can install them straight onto a TNCS PME. A standalone solo, not part of an array. Important point of note, and ours aren't part of an array. They're all functioning in their own right to draw the maximum load. There's none of the internal comms between the products that I'll explain in a minute. Here, what else have we got? It says it's got the surge protection built in, so it's got a type 3 surge protecting device in there. Now you'll have seen in our installs we have also installed surge protection at the distribution boards, but the products themselves do also have them in. It does say in most cases it's difficult, and it may be prudent that type 2 protection should be installed at the source of supply, especially if life support equipment or business operations could be affected. Type 1 SPD may also be desired in certain high risk locations, so they're kind of leaning on you to do what we have done anyway. There's a template that comes in the box. We don't use it, but it's in there if you want to use that. It tells you about not to drill the curved faces, where the entry points are, and where you can fix to the wall. So they're all pre-marked inside this product. So the holes are there to fix to the wall. And if you are going to make any holes of your own, don't do it on the curved faces, basically. Wiring up the solar, the supply cable used should be rated for 33 amps, 7 kilowatt unit, and should be approved for British standards. So again, it's all pretty consistent with what you would see here. When cutting steel wire armour cables, bring at least 10 mil inside, so you know you're going to get a nice secure seal, and it's not going to chafe the conductors. Torque settings 1.5 to 2 Newton meters. Again, picture of the printed circuit board, explanation of these, and again, if you're wiring the array controller, it talks about that. So it's a screened cable. It shows you how to connect that up. It basically loops in, loops out, but we're not using that here. We don't need to. We can set ours to all run at the maximum rating of the products. They're not sharing the load between themselves, so we're very lucky on that front. It shows a little bit about setting them up here in terms of your installation, where you've got your additional dB to control the charge points. An array board as well, it mentions that. This is more for a domestic side of things. I mean, this is the commercial instruction book, but it is kind of still using terminology we'd see from that area of things. It runs through a list of stuff you can check. It says at the time of this document there's no specific standards for 6 mA DC testing. Now we know from the TIS MFT Pro they have a unique feature on the 6 mA DC testing, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with these products, and we can show that later on once we've commissioned some of these. Then talks about connecting them to a Wi-Fi network, explains about theft, all the basics for what the lights mean when it's doing its stuff, and the Wi-Fi security. So it's quite a comprehensive little instruction manual, in fairness to PodPoint. Just trying to see if there's anything else I should point out in here. There's all of the British standards and IEC codes that the product meets. So that's always nice to see, so you can reference back to those and see exactly what they are claiming this product does comply with. Yeah, that's kind of it really. Just saying what else we've got in here. not really a lot to talk about really. It's got the pen fault protection built in, so you'll see here it includes a safety monitoring system to detect low voltage supplies, failed earths and potential earth neutral faults. If it's detected, the charge cycle's ended. So it's basically as you would find in a lot of the charge points these days. And yeah, that is that. Let's move on with the video. So I hope you've enjoyed having a look through the PodPoint Solar 3. I've tried to cover it in as much detail as possible without making this a how-to. We have got a few things to straighten out on that install now. We have realised the RCDs are required, so we need those 4-pole type A RCDs to go in, and I'll show you how we sort that out in a low-cost, non-intrusive way. Fortunately, we realised before we carried on with our installs of the solars at 2 of the schools we're using them at, so most of the schools are using the T22 posts. This was a new product on us, it's caught us out, it can happen from time to time. Luckily, it's not that expensive or difficult to sort, so we're going to demo that. I'll show us putting the RCDs in on this particular job, and we're going to cover our install at a primary school. Well, there's 2 primary schools, one of them's got 2 of the solars, and one has got a single solar, so we can show you how we pull all that together with the overcurrent protected device on the distribution boards as we find them, and now how we fit the RCDs in line with the product as well. But until that time, I'm going to leave this one here. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I have had somebody commenting on a video the last couple of days to do with my energy and the issues around them not making clear the use of type A RCDs, and again this is quite consistent through all of the brands. I've had the same discussions with ICS where it will say in the instruction manual that a 30 milliamp RCD is needed up front, but if you speak to the tech team they'll say it's not needed. There's a huge grey area in and around all of that, and it all boils down to product standards and British standards and what the intent of the wiring regs say and what these things actually do not matching up. And as usual, it's the electrician in the middle of that deciding, are the manufacturers superseding and going above and beyond what the regs are asking us to do, or is it below that value? Where are we going to stand if there's an issue in the future? And the default position is generally we'll put the RCDs in up front as well. So in doing that, you've got the argument around selectivity and RCDs and stuff tripping at the same time and not one before the other. So, you know, where you try and meet the standard in one place, you can slip beneath it in another. Yeah, it's not easy, is it? Let me know what you think in the comments to this video. As always, give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe to the channel would be a huge help, and I'll see you all in the next one.